Hello, Chris.
Hello, Dave.
And here we are in a cloud of smoke for our end of the year, end of the 2019, end of the first decade of the 21st century. Beat Cop's Guide to American Eats.
We've been literally doing this for a decade.
Yeah, I know. And I got our logo in the bottom of the screen, and 10 years, still learning new things, like how to set up a camera.
Maybe by the end of the next decade, we'll start a show and it'll be correct.
It'll make some money.
Right at the beginning. It's never going to make any money.
If you guys want to send us some money, feel free.
Just put it in a mail.
All right, there we go. That's better.
Just write Dave and Chris. Every post office guy knows where to go.
I didn't check the screen. I look at it's kind of dark. We need to. I got reflections of light off my forehead, but we also should get a light like right here that'll shine so that it lights up.
Do people really want to see that? I mean,
well, I think we should look our best. So, little by little, we'll get better.
Well, I am wearing a sweater vest and a collared shirt.
Yeah.
So
nobody pulls off a sweater vest better than you. Sweater vest better than you.
Better sweater vester.
It's what is it? I want to be warm, but only around
just
here.
My arms are fine. My arms are just fine. It's just here. No, the way it works is if you wear a sweater vest, no one can see how fat you are.
I'm wearing my Memphis Recording Studio T-shirt that I got at the Elvis Museum in Memphis, Tennessee.
Kind of cool.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
And I am David Haynes. I am a Chicago Police Lieutenant. This is the Beat Cop's Guide, and even though I am a Chicago Police Lieutenant, I do not speak for the Chicago Police Department. I only speak for myself. So
they tell you to say that?
You know what? I just they did tell me to say it when I was on the radio, and so I figured I should say it when I'm doing anything public. I actually say it when I go to the museum too.
Just as you're walking around, just
walking
walking down the street or anything.
I like tickets to the museum. I don't speak for the police department. I'd like to go on the coal mine, please, but I don't speak for the police department. Right. Have anything to do with policy.
Going through a pay toll, you're like, hi, here's $1. I don't speak for the police department, but I'm Bull Garlington. I do stuff.
Yeah, does a lot of stuff.
I'm a sweater vester from way back.
An avid sweater vest wearer. All right, so let's start off the first thing before we get into all the great things that happened this year, if there are any. I have a Christmas present for you.
Okay. I have a Christmas present.
There's your Christmas present.
Here's your Christmas present.
Oh, thank you. What do we got?
Yours is nicer already.
Ooh. Blood Red Moon pipe tobacco.
Oh, my fucking God.
Plum pudding?
All right, you beat the shit out of me on the Christmas.
All right. Present. Well, actually, isn't it cool?
Fucking nice.
I got it on eBay. It was actually very cheap. But except this is, I realize, a cigarette holder. So I don't know if you know anybody that smokes cigarettes, but you should maybe have them use that to smoke cigarettes.
Fuck them.
And it's an actual meerschaum pipe, but it's really small.
I love it, man. Look at that. Well, I got you. I worked hard. I was thinking about your flavor profile, and I know you like the aromatics. So this is the Seattle Pipe Club's plum pudding, which just, oh my God, is it delicious. And then this dude, open that up. That is a cherry flavor that will knock you off your ass. And then this is a house thing from Arlington Pipe thing. Person behind the counter, it was their personal mix. And finally, I got you a broken tamper because I just opened it up and it's broke. So I got to take it back.
Cool.
It's cool, but it's broke. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you, Santa Chris. Santa Bull.
Santa Bull.
All right. So what else is going on?
Well, I cooked for 22 people on Christmas Day.
Ooh, that is nice.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
It is very, very cherry, man. And I got it because I told this person, Amu, behind the counter, I'm like, Dave kind of likes to mix his own stuff, you know? So these are all very strong flavors. They didn't have anything with Perique.
Well, that's right. You know what? I'm kind of the Louisiana Perique is kind of getting rough. Now that I don't I haven't had a cigar in almost a month at least.
Yeah.
And even then I was only smoking them rarely because generally speaking in the wintertime I switch basically over to the pipe. Last year it was like unless I took the dog for a walk, then I'd have a cigar. But this year I haven't even been smoking cigars at all. And the Perique is very rough. I don't know why. Maybe because I just smoke the pipe more often than I smoke cigars. Because I'll do a little here, a little there, and so the Perique seem to be very rough. I'm much more into the fruitier aromatics.
I think these will work for you. So, I'm smoking right now the Peterson Nightcap. This guy right here, the legendary. How do you do this? The legendary. It's a legendary tobacco. I've waited forever to get some, and it is good, man.
That's that's actually probably my favorite tobacco, but it's the only one my wife has said she doesn't like.
Wow. Oh well.
She doesn't like the smell. No, she's not here. No, she's
Okay.
working late, end of the year stuff. So.
This stuff.
And Ken, I just answered your question. That's why we have no cigars, because we've been switching over to pipe tobacco recently because our wives like it better.
Yeah. And
Oh.
Matt, can you fix our sound, please?
Matt Durkaz is on. If you're on Facebook, please post comments. We'll answer them. We'll yell your name out when we see you.
I don't know if I should do the watch party thing or not.
Why not?
Okay, I'll do it.
Unless I can try and do it here, but we failed miserably last week.
Yeah.
Matt, you have to come out and be on the show with us. We'll even go out to the cigar store again to do it because Matt was our former producer when we actually had a radio show, and we didn't know anything about doing a radio show other
We
than
still don't know anything about doing a radio show.
Joe Gentile gave us access to a microphone.
Yeah.
And Matt, remember we used to go there and he would
Yell at us.
show up in his bathrobe and yell at us because his wife got
Yeah.
mad because we were smoking cigars in the studio.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually when we were off a couple of weeks ago when we couldn't do the podcast, I put up a best of from our radio show with me wanting to call a judge who sentenced a police officer to 5 years and Matt Durkaz telling us that's illegal, I think. Talking me out of it. And I'm like, let's call a lawyer. Let's call it. He goes, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, very helpful producer. They're like, yeah, go ahead. I'm gonna leave.
Yeah, he didn't tell me not to do it. He just said he wasn't going to be any part of the
Yeah.
illegal activity. That I'm not going to
I think-
jail. All right, we're live. I think. I'm sorry about that. That was my fault. I left something plugged into my computer that I knew was having problems, and I forgot to unplug it. And when I unplugged it in the middle of it, it just crashed. It went turned the whole computer off. So that sucks. I'll have to combine those two, or should we start the whole thing over again?
I don't know. I mean,
All right, thanks, Chris. For
I'm setting up the watch party, man.
all right.
I mean,
Chris is setting up the watch party. So this is the B Cups guy. We're back again. So
I'm working.
hopefully we'll get the same people who joined us before to join us again. What I was telling a story before we got cut off that it was Michael Meddy when he got convicted in Iowa of having of getting into a bar fight or whatever, and we couldn't believe that he got convicted because of the evidence that the judge even used the evidence that he tried to get away. He left away. The victim, quote unquote, chased him for 2 blocks and confronted him again, and then he punched him one time and knocked him down and got 5 years because he has a duty to keep retreating, is what the judge said. And I wanted to call that judge and go, how far do you retreat? It sounds like you should have had to leave the state to get away from it.
hopefully out of range, you know.
All right, so we were starting to talk about Christmas. You cooked for a whole crap load, a whole
I
big
cooked,
messy buttload of people.
I did. There were 22 people. 2 of them were vegan, and one of them had food allergies for both gluten and corn. Figure that out. Oh! He's doing it again.
What?
The dog.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
Come on, man. We're on the air.
I think that it's getting to be that this is a.
I think that dog is part cat.
I think that the dog is trying to tell us something about our podcast.
You know, I mean, Is there a secret signal that's going out that makes dogs are dogs all over the neighborhood suddenly just urinating when we go in the air?
Did she really urinate on the floor?
Out there, not in here, but still right in front of me, like I don't even matter, you know?
Man. You know, and I've let that dog out three
now.
times. I've let that dog out 3 times. That's like a personal shot.
That is a vendetta. Now look, it's staring at us. Yeah, see ya. You know what? And it went away. I bet it went and took a crap down there. Is what happened. Should we start our show from the beginning like we normally do? Like tell what we're smoking, or is it too late? We just go into.
Well, we kind of already did.
All right.
Yeah. Well, you're smoking the nightcap, and I'm smoking.
There you go. Yeah.
Cherry.
Yeah. So, what happened in your life today, this week, this year?
Well,
Dave?
I had to work. I had to work. It was kind
What's
of
that like.
It was kind of a. It was a nice Christmas for what I did, but I didn't get to go see my dad because I had to work and the schedule was just too tight. It didn't work out. So so I haven't seen him yet. And so it was my first Christmas since my mom died, so that was a little.
My condolences.
Yeah. And what's funny is I had to work in other districts leading up to Christmas. So I was in the 17th district on Christmas Eve. And,
tell everybody in general where these districts are at.
Well, the 17th
we live
district.
in the 16th.
I'm sorry?
We're in the 16th, right?
We're in the 16th district,
Yeah.
northwest side of the city, and that's where I'm assigned. And I was actually on Christmas Eve. I was in the 14th district, which is Wicker Park, which is actually, I love working there when I can because it's an interesting. It's probably to me the most interesting neighborhood in the city. So
we're periodically going to seem like we're not paying
Yeah.
attention because we don't know.
yeah,
Fuck! I can't do anything right. Okay. I'm just trying to react to people online while I'm also in the air, and I can't walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. So that's the way it works. Occasionally,
Well, tell them to go to the Beat Cops Guide page, and then
go to.
If you want to leave comments, you have to leave them at the Beat Cops Guide Facebook page.
Get out of my watch party. Go to the Beat Cops Guide page, and it's all the stuff is there. That's better. So
because then we can see it. It's on the screen behind.
Yeah. And I just did the watch party so people know. But
all right. So anyway, so I was on Christmas
it.
Eve. I was in the 14th district, which is an interesting, fun place. It's just I wouldn't want to be assigned there because I have to drive every day down to Wicker Park, as opposed to now I'm used to driving 5 minutes to work.
Well, the crimes are mostly crimes against fashion down there.
Yeah, that's true. And then on Christmas Day, I was in the 17th district, which is still on the northwest side of the city. It's right next to the 16th where I work. So that was, not too bad. But what was weird is both on each of those days, I ran into somebody who had at one time worked with my mom and asked me how she is.
Oh, whoops.
And, and they did not realize that she had died this summer. So
you get to go, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, on Christmas. That's nice. But work was, Christmas Eve and the night before Christmas Eve was actually pretty easy. Or Christmas Day and Christmas Eve was pretty easy. On Christmas night, because, I work midnights. We go to work at 9 o'clock in the evening. And technically that means we're working for the next day. So going to work at 9 o'clock or 8:30 on Christmas Day is for me the day after Christmas. Yeah, it's kind of hard to get used to.
Yeah, I can barely wrap my head around
once
that.
you're used to it, it's hard to not think that way.
I think we get it.
So yeah, but Christmas night was pretty busy because holidays in the city are pretty busy because people get into fights over the last chicken wing and
as they should.
Or in the case of Christmas night, somebody got beat up on the L train after being very inebriated, couldn't explain what happened or why, and because he was drunk and because he had a head wound, bled a lot. We thought that it was going to be a lot more serious than it was, but turned out he was fine. So,
well, like I said, I cooked for 20 people. 2 of them were vegan. 1 of them had a food allergy that's corn and gluten. So, I was like, how do I do this without cooking 3 meals? And it was actually a lot easier than.
Now, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
I assume you knew about these dietary restrictions.
This is every year.
All right, so you have these same people every year. But if you were going to, if you have a dietary restriction and you're going to a party, do you tell the people?
Well,
How do you work that?
I mean, if they invite you, then you say, I would love to come. However, I am allergic to both gluten and corn. So if you would like, I can bring my own food.
Yeah.
That's what you would say.
I would think so, yeah.
Or you would offer to bring a dessert or something like that.
Yeah, or say, at least, I don't want you to go out of your way to make something special, but please let me know what's in everything. So I know.
The two people that are vegan at the party are the least annoying vegans I know. All right, because vegans are normally the most annoying people. The only people more annoying than vegans are 5K runners, and fuck them.
That's kind of an almost oxymoronic statement. The least irritating vegans, a non-irritating vegan that they've never met.
I know, it's like, how you know somebody's a vegan?
Because they tell you constantly.
They'll tell you. I love that meme where they're at a funeral and somebody says, "Does anyone have anything else to say?" And then some guy goes, "I'm vegan." But no, they're not. They're totally cool. And I felt bad because last year or the year before last, I cooked for everybody, and I forgot about the fact that they're vegan, and so the only thing I had for them that was completely not with completely vegan were baked potatoes. And they were not pretty because they just a baked potato, and then when they cut into them, they had a stone in the middle of them. Both of them.
Was that the year you did the 400 pounds of crawfish? And
no, that was my birthday, and that comes up a lot lately. You know what? Should I tell that story?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So, for those of you who don't know me well enough, I am of noble birth because I was born in Birmingham, Alabama, and raised by Southern people who were part Cajun. And so Cajun food's a big part of my life. I celebrate my birthday either with a crawdad boil or with raw oysters. That's my jam. And so a couple of years ago, I had my 52nd birthday. I am that old. And I decided I called it my full deck birthday. So I finally was playing with a full deck. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to have a crawdad boil. And I bought myself a big boiler. And I thought about how many crawdads should I get? And so I thought about how my family eats crawdads. If I go to a crawdad boil, we'll each knock back a good pound of crawdads. That's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of crawdads, but crawdads are tiny, So yeah, a pound. A pound of crawdads yields you about 3/4 of a pound of actual meat if you're lucky.
right.
All right. So that's not So I did that math, and I had invited a lot of people. So I ordered from this farm in Louisiana 40 pounds of live. I think it's grade 3 craw. They were huge. They were like small lobsters, okay? And they're alive. I don't know if I mentioned the whole alive thing, but they were alive, right? So on the day of my birthday, I get a call from FedEx over in Skokie, and they go, "Mr. Garlington." I go, "Yeah." They go, "You need to come get your package." And I'm like, "Well, I was going to come this afternoon." They go, "No, now." I'm like, "Okay, what's going on?" They go, "We don't know what it is, but it smells up the." So I get there, and I walk in, and the guys are mad already. All right, there's 2 guys behind the counter. It's one of those FedEx places where it's like a Soviet post office. There's nothing. There's 2 guys and beige everywhere, and they roll my package out, and it is enormous. It is huge, and one whole corner is caved in, and apparently during the trip, a lot of the crawdads died. And so their stinking, reeking corpses were stinking up the whole place. It was like a dead person at the beach after a week. All right, it was not pleasant. And I was like, "Can I?" And they go, "We don't need to talk. Just take it away." So I take it away, and I call actually, it wasn't the day of my birthday. It was like a day. I called the people that I ordered from. I said, "Look, they're all dead." They go, "Oh, we'll replace the whole shipment." I'm like, so they send it. I get it the day of my birthday. I have 80 pounds of live crawdads. Do you have any idea how big that is? It's like the size. That's enough. You could build a piano out of all those crawdads. And so I take them all out, and they're in these coolers, and I dump them out on the big table in my driveway where I was going to serve everything. And that was the second point where I had made a mistake. First, a pound of crawdads per person at a party is too much when you're in Chicago, because the most people in Chicago to eat is like 4 crawdads. All right. Maybe. They're not like us people in the South. They don't eat a lot of crawdads. And so I had probably 70 pounds of crawdads more than I needed, and they were alive. And I dumped them out on the table, and they started to run away. And so here I have like 3,000 crawdads that are big, right? They're very large crawdads that are skittering across my table and falling on the ground and crawling into my neighbors' yards and disappearing. And the next day, people were knocking on my door and going, well, does your yard smell funny? And my other neighbor's like, listen, man, you got to do something about this. My yard smells like low tide. This is bad. I don't appreciate it. I was like, I'm really sorry. And then after I'd rounded up all the dead lobsters, the next day I had to figure out what to do with them because you can't just put them in the garbage. It smelled that bad. I wouldn't even put it in the garbage.
So what'd you do?
Well, I had it in my garage, all right? And I had it there for several days because I was waiting for garbage day. And so on garbage day, I opened up the garage door and I'm like, oh my God. And I caught my breath and I'm like, I can't put this in the garbage. I'll get sued. So I like lined my trunk with newspaper, put the box in there. And at night, I drove around the city trying to find a place to dump the bodies. All right. So I'm driving around Chicago like a mobster trying to dump these stinking bodies of crawdads. And I go to one, I saw this church, like in this weird neighborhood. There's this church. And I'm like, and most of the lights are off. I'm like, I bet they got a dumpster in the back. And like, I go back there and their dumpster is locked. I'm like, shit. And I'm like, oh, I can go down by the Des Plaines River, but I'm like, I don't know how to get down there and I'll probably get caught. And finally I went to a mobile gas station and I drove around until I knew I was like between the cameras. And I just took it out and slid it up against the dumpster and I like sped off. It was so ridiculous. Never do that. Never order too many crawdads.
I've done shrimp boils, and they've been a big hit.
It's the same thing.
It's been a big hit with my family. But I remember going to your party and seeing the crawdads.
There's a lot.
Crawdads are ugly.
Yes, yeah, they are. They're not pretty at all.
No, and
they're
so
blue.
If you're not used to them, then I can see how it would be a problem.
Yeah, and I didn't have them. You can get them purged, right? So, live crawdads are full of mud and crawdad poop, and so when you boil them, you got to know that the people that eat them are going to know that they got to peel that vein out and everything, and not everybody knew that, and so it didn't go over well at all.
No, I remember walking into a party because I came late. I think I was working, and I remember walking into a party. You're at a party where everybody's sitting around the table just looking at each other and not saying anything because I think they're so depressed from the lack of food.
And the other thing was I'd gotten a like 6 dozen Blue Point oysters, which is also way too much. That's way too many oysters. And my friend Laura was opening them, and she was in the kitchen just yelling and screaming at the oysters. So it was completely weird. There was no real food. I was outside. There was some crazy woman screaming in my kitchen, pounding oysters on the counter because she couldn't get them open. And it was just completely nuts.
All right. So that was Chris's crawdad.
Merry Christmas.
That was so that would be one of the low lights of the past decade, right? So we're counting down bad things of the decade.
Well, I mean, some people think I have a vested interest in screwing up because then I turn around and write about it and I get paid. So every time I make a mistake, to me, that's just a future payday. If I can write enough funny things about it. The other one, I can't talk about all the low points because you don't like to talk about some things on the radio.
Like what?
Fecal matters.
Oh,
yeah, you're just not into it, man. So,
well, okay. How about what else went on this week?
Nothing happened.
Didn't you get
nothing happened?
You got a letter from some museum?
Oh, it's just okay. All right. So I'm a writer. Words matter to me.
Why do you keep leaning out of the?
I can't. My microphone is okay. Hang on a minute. My microphone is just kind of short right there. It's just.
Oh well, I would have put it on the arm like mine is. But
okay, shut up with that.
You take your crap apart.
Shut up with that. All right. So anyway, Ted Hogan has joined.
Oh, good.
So words matter to me. So sometimes I get stuck, right? And I know that there's a word that I need for this sentence that I'm working on. And about, more than half the time, if I can't think of the word, I just skip it and go on to something else. But every once in a while, the word is so perfect that I have to chase it down, even though I can't remember no matter how hard I try. And there's a word that I read one time that was it described the opening of a bag, not a square bag, but a round bag like they used to have in the olden days. And it was the throat of it, like where you would hold the bag with your hand and there'd be a part above your hand. It was open and the bag full of gumdrops underneath. And that area where you held, there's a word for that. It's like gusset or something like that. It's a quasi medical word that means throat. And I looked everywhere for
Gullet?
it. No, shut up.
All right, sorry.
And what did I say?
Gusset.
Yeah, that's not even. So I found out there's a place called the Museum of Bags.
Where's that?
I don't know. I wrote him a letter, and that was many years ago. And I just got it back from them. When was it? I wrote them in the last time I wrote them. I checked up again in 2017, and they just wrote back to me, they have 10,000 bags cataloged.
Wow.
And 2,500 uncatalogued, and they're just trying to explain.
Wait, different types of bags?
I was afraid to ask. I mean, this email the guy sent me is like 900 words about bags, man. That's already too much. I just wanted to know what the hell that thing was called. And then after all that, he goes, anyway, I don't know what it's called. So first of all, I'm never going to the fucking bag museum because that was a waste of time.
Wait, you didn't say where is it? Where is the bag museum?
I don't. Hang on a minute.
All right, so Chris is
just
not
talk
prepared again.
Talk amongst yourselves. All right, talk amongst yourselves.
Topics that he brings up.
Talk amongst yourself. The University of Cummings Center for the History of Psychology. Wait. Okay, hold on a minute. I am pleased to tell you that in July of this year, the Museum of Bags donated its entire collection to the University of Akron, I assume Ohio. The Lee L. Foreman Bag Collection, as it will be known, will be housed in the Institute for Human Science and Culture.
So it is a bunch of old ladies.
What? The word you're looking for, Mr. Garlington, is Patricia. So anyway, that's my whole.
So there's a
library.
museum of bags. We should do an episode on weird museums. You know.
We're doing that now.
Yeah, no kidding.
What we need is commercials so I could load my pipe without looking like a jackass.
Just load it.
Yeah, but I mean,
Matt
then
Dirk
I'm not
has-
talking. And
Matt Dirk has his back. All right. Well, how about this? You load your pipe, and we'll talk about the next thing I had was the 10 most notable Chicago restaurant closures of 2019. And I just wanted to see how many of these restaurants we've gone to. I haven't even read the story yet, but I
don't even know about it. So
I have to assume it's about restaurant closures in Chicago.
I'm going to say that between the two of us, we've been to 4 of them.
Okay. That sounds actually reasonable to me. Although
this tobacco smells amazing. This is early morning pipe from Peterson.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very mild. It's one of my favorites.
I can't wait.
Rocket Bar and Grill.
Never been.
Really, I have Rocket Bar and Grill.
So that's one.
Yeah. Wait,
were you there in a professional capacity, or were you just hungry?
No, I was just hungry.
But I think that question still needs to be: were you professionally hungry, or
no? I was just hungry.
Right. Also, all you guys are welcome to click over to the actual page out of my watch party and go to the Beat Cups guide to the live thing there. So
yeah, and if you guys are in there and you want to leave comments, feel free.
Yeah, you can say dirty stuff. We're okay with that. Dave more than me, but
yeah,
it's all right.
We don't want to talk about fecal matters though.
No, that's not this broadcast.
All right, so there's another one called Kitsune.
Never been.
Or Bunny the Micro Bakery. It has 2 names.
Maybe that's why they went out of business.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because people were like, "Where you want to go?" Kitsune. Nah, I'd rather go to the Bunny Micro Bakery.
This was in East Lakeview. It was a casual Japanese restaurant. It opened in 2017. It got great praise from critics, glowing reviews. Let's see, why did it close? She abruptly pulled the plug on both it's a bakery and a restaurant, and a Japanese casual restaurant. By July, the reason for the closure is still a mystery.
Oh,
yeah.
Probably owed somebody money.
Nicolette. RM
Never been.
Champagne Salon and Leghorn Chicken.
What the fuck is that?
I've heard of Leghorn Chicken. I've never been there. River North Seafood Restaurant, Kinmont. They ran out of money, and it's 3 restaurants owned by the same group, and all of them died. So Leghorn Chicken, River North, and Old Town Social. And they had a Randolph Row favorite, Nell Coat, and RM Champagne, all on Randolph there. But
I've been to RM Champagne.
They closed within a week of each other amidst worker allegations that they were bouncing checks.
Which probably means they were. If they closed that. Or you don't close on allegations unless the allegations have some water in them.
Right. But they have 4 restaurants, 2 of them on Randolph Row.
Yeah, well, Randolph Row is man, that's a hard place to have a restaurant. I don't know why either, because there's some great restaurants there, but there's a lot of restaurants that start up there and then they just don't make it. I mean, that's true of everywhere.
I've been down there. It's by the police academy. I've been down there several times. It's right. That's where the city winery is, and it's during the summer. It's like a
Girl and the Goat, Bad Wolf.
Yeah, but that place, Kaiser Tiger, with all the bacon. Every dish has bacon in it at Kaiser Tiger.
Yeah, I bet they never close.
That was a great restaurant. City Winery's right there. There's a place that serves I can't remember the name of it, but it serves really good hot chocolate, like all kinds of gourmet hot chocolate. I took the kids there once. I can't remember the name of it, but that's right down there. There's a whole bunch of restaurants right along Randolph Road that seem to be doing very well.
Yeah, because they're amazing.
Yeah.
But other people try to open up and take advantage of it, and it doesn't go over very well.
All right, La Sirena Clandestina, a Fulton Market corridor. It's in the Fulton Market corridor, and it's closing on New Year's Eve. 7 years in business, and it predates the neighborhood changing Google building that went up. So have you ever been there? What's it called? La Sirena Clandestina.
Never been there.
Never even heard of it.
Nope. I used to work with Clandestino, which was a pop-up, but it was a different group of people.
Fulton Galley. Fulton Galley, I actually I've heard of it. I've never been there, but I wanted to go. It was one of those places I heard a lot of good things about, and never. They've only been open since mid-2018, and they were going to open another one in 2019, and all of a sudden they closed down.
Money.
Yeah.
It's always money, man.
They threw in the towel after 5 months in business, and less than 1 week before the larger timeout market could debut with many.
It's a tough business, man. Opening a restaurant is a crazy thing to do. It's all about hope and money, and you need to have 5 times as much money as your business people tell you need, because you're going to have to throw money at your restaurant to keep it alive initially.
Yeah,
And
now the minimum wage is going up $1 next week, and then another $1 in July. I wonder if that's going to affect, because most of the guys working in the kitchen make minimum wage. I know when my son started, he first started on the line, he made minimum wage for a couple of years.
Well, you know how I feel about that. Any business that starts up needs to first take into consideration whether they can afford to pay their workers a livable wage. And if they can't, don't go into business. Just don't do it.
And if anybody wants to get a definition of what a livable wage is, call Chris, because
Well, I mean, all right, we're there now, so you should be able to have one job, all right, as an adult American, and with that one job, you should at least be able to afford your rent or your mortgage and food, the basics. That's a livable wage. You should be able to be alive, you should have the basic foundations of Maslow's pyramid of hierarchy of needs. You should get the first level with one job. Now, I'm not saying there should be part-time jobs, teenagers and stuff like that are starting out. Sure, that's not the same for them, but an adult person should be able to have one job, and it should pay them enough that they can live. That's fair.
Yeah, but you don't know how much their rent is, how much food they eat.
Yeah, there's statistics.
Yeah,
it's you can look it up. It's typical. There's a rate at which it works for just about everybody.
Okay. I actually agree with the idea that you should be able to make a livable wage, but I also think that there has to be a a sort of a entry level that you get into. You know, I think actually most people who make minimum wage are people who are starting out in any business.
Yeah, but the minimum wage should be the entry thing. That should be the minimum. The minimum wage should be the entry thing.
right.
All right. And as you get better, you get even more money. You know, so eventually you're making very, very good money at whatever you're doing. Instead of like maybe eventually making $20 an hour, you should start out at $15 or $16 an hour, which is the appropriate amount these days, and then get better and get more. You know, I mean, look at how much.
Well, we're going to see. I mean, it really is. It's almost a kind of pointless to discuss the philosophy, at least in Illinois, because by I think 2022, it's going to be $15 an hour.
Yeah, good.
And
by then it won't be enough.
yeah, which is what would have been exactly the next thing that I would have said, because once you raise that minimum wage, then people are going to raise rent and they're going to raise food.
And, they've done it in some other places and it worked out quite well. Look at California. Although California just did a really stupid thing, and people like me are kind of concerned, man, because the
freelance thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and that's but
man.
it's a natural progression, and it's what everybody who is not in any political capacity in California said was going to happen. And by that, I mean Republicans. Democrats run everything in California. Republicans said, listen, if you pass these laws, a lot of people are going to get hurt. And people said, like you just said, no, it'll all work out. And it didn't work out. And now a lot of people are getting fired in California. So,
yeah, I don't understand it, to be honest with you. I mean, the whole point of freelance is that you're your own business, like I'm freelance. And when I bill somebody, it's just like when a plumber bills somebody.
It's called the gig economy is for some reason, so many people, it's not only freelance writers, although they're the ones that were most immediately hurt, but Uber
they're the ones you hear about because
Yeah.
they're writing columns and stuff.
But Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, food delivery people, all these people who have at some point said, well, you know what, I don't have to work for the man, I don't have to go work and work hours I don't want to work, and because I can make my own living doing my own personal gigs with my car.
No, you can't.
Well, you can for a time. And then I think most people then, if they get offered a job or they realize they want more money, they move into a regular job. But during that downtime, like let's say they get laid off or something, it was good to have the ability to freelance or to do a gig job or do something like that. And now they're basically destroying that in my mind.
I don't think it's going to stick. And also, I completely don't understand it. Like, I literally could not explain it to you. I don't even know why they're doing it. But I know this, and that is that people who think they're going to go into business for themselves, like for Uber or as a freelance writer or illustrator or something, and they're like, I can make my own hours. I can work from the beach. Well, best of luck with that, because when you're in business for yourself, your hours are all of them.
Yeah.
I'm always working. I never stop working except for most of the time. Because I don't.
All right, let's get back to the restaurant.
Yeah, sorry. We're divergent.
I don't know why I don't know why you drag this off on the table.
I'm sorry, goddamn liberals. I swear to God, you libtard bastards.
All right, the Barrel House Flat.
Oh,
did you go there?
No, but I always wanted to go there.
Yeah, I've never been there. Last a dozen years, Chicago's cocktail culture has risen to. By the way, what I'm reading is from.
Thrillist out.
This is Eater Chicago.
Oh, Eater.
Just to give proper credit where credit is due. So this is a story from Eater Chicago. So Barrel House Flat. They've been open a dozen years. They have one of the influential cocktail bars. How come you've never gone there? You're in all those weird.
There's a lot of bars, man. I can't go to all of them. Believe me, I try. I would like to go to all of them.
In Lincoln Park, serves some of the city's best cocktails in a sophisticated environment that spawned many of Chicago's top drink makers.
Yeah, they
actually, now that I read this, I have heard of that, but I don't drink, so that's why I didn't go.
A lot of people at other bars that are well-known bartenders kind of started at Barrel Flats, or they started at one of the other cool bars, that are like that. So it's hard to have a restaurant. It's hard to have a bar. Those are difficult. They're difficult businesses, especially if you do something that's really interesting. But in a city like Chicago, you can normally
a
sustain that kind of thing.
You can have a niche.
You can, as long as your business model is tight, man. You know, as long as your business, don't you dare come down here and pee again. I swear to God, dog. Don't do it. Oh,
She's not doing it.
no, I don't know.
No
What
dog can pee that soon. All right. So I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Quixote, Quiote.
Quixote.
Quixote.
God, I've been there and I love it too. Here's the thing with Quixote closing, there's actually two places closing because Quixote had Toda de Sol, which was underneath them. It was their secret mezcal bar and one of my favorite places in the whole world. And they won 2018. Yeah, they won 2018's Bar of the Year. And they were fantastic. And Quixote was fantastic too. And they screwed up their taxes and they had to shut down. It's really sad because there's not a lot of mezcal bars in Chicago, and that's my jam.
Mezcal.
Oh, I love it so much.
Pork
it's
and
like
Mindy's.
the Scotch of tequila. Pork and Mindy's. I've had their stuff.
Yeah, I've been there.
They're so
great.
good.
That you know what? That's right. They have Mariano's grocery stores, but the bottom fell. So they opened up a few locations in the city and in Mariano's grocery stores, and announced a few others that opened, but then the bottom fell out.
I think they spread themselves too thin.
Yeah,
because they opened in the Wells Street Market. They had a thing there, but they were right next to the gyro thing by the guy who runs Purple Pig, and I mean that's a lot of brain power to I think they all work together, but I don't know.
All right, the Slurping Turtle.
No,
Slurping Turtle closed.
Yep, been there too.
Actually, we and they were also when we went to the Whiskey Fest. They were one of the sponsors, and they had food at the Whiskey Fest.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
They earned a James Beard Award and Michelin stars.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, how did they close?
I don't know, because again, if you've got 3 restaurants and they're not all doing good, you got to pick one to get rid of.
Yeah.
And so that guy Todiyaski or what's his name?
Yagahashi.
I was close.
Yeah. Turtle Husky.
He's got a couple other places, and they're more high end.
Booth 1.
Yep. Okay.
You been there?
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yes, I've been there. Do you know where that is? That's in the Pump Room.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, you're right. Pump Room. Here it is. Decision to close the Gold Coast restaurant after less than 2.5 years was mutual.
Damn it.
Nonetheless surprising.
What are they going to put there? I hope they put a better restaurant there.
The Ambassador Hotel, which houses the space, replace it with generic bar and dining. With a generic, but so it's just a hotel restaurant now. You know what?
Somebody should buy that because it's a historic building. It's been there for like 100 years or more, and it's a great place. And it used to be the Pump Room, and I'd been there when it was a Pump Room, reborn, and I'd been there when I interviewed the sommelier when it was Booth 1, and it was a good place, man.
So we went to more than half, I think. Booth 1, Slurping Turtle. We both went to that.
So we're the kiss of death, is what you're saying.
Pork and Mindy's. We went to that. Quixote, you went to that.
If you would like your restaurant to close, just invite Chris and Dave.
I'm going to be reviewing restaurants.
Spencer Miller says he wants to go to the Slurping Turtle just for the name. It was wonderful, really was.
Oh yeah, and I mean they had great ramen. I love these ramen restaurants. Although now that I've gone on my keto diet and I don't eat carbohydrates anymore, it's been very tough. But it's really funny because kids. I have 3 kids, and my youngest, all of them really at some point got into ramen. Because you buy it because
ramen's great.
The crappy ramen stuff at the restaurant, and it's easier for them to make. But my youngest actually got into it to the point where she was willing to go out and have it at restaurants, and so we went to some really nice.
Did you go to Furious Spoon?
We went to Furious.
God,
Spoon,
I love the Furious.
But there's
Spoon.
a better one up in Evanston. Right around the corner. It's right across the street from that bakery that we, the famous old bakery. Not Berghoff's. I don't know why. Bergendorf's is famous old bakery. And there's a ramen place right across the street that was phenomenal. They had all kinds of different ramen. And so she really got into it to where she was, she didn't want just the store-bought crap, that she wanted real stuff. She always wanted the ramen that looked like the ramen in Panyo with ham and
there you go.
All right. So what else you got?
Well, we've been talking about food a lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do we want to keep talking about food, or are you making any resolutions for New Year's?
Well,
about
just to go back on my diet, and to be less offended by things you say. Be a little more tolerant.
like
of
this?
Chris's
Fuck you,
politics.
Dave. Are you offended by that?
No.
So, make America gay again.
Why? What are your resolutions?
I don't have any. I don't do that. I think New Year's resolution. My New Year's resolution is next year. I'm going to go to Nashville for New Year's.
Well, that's nice. I actually I have to work New Year's Eve, and then we're going to Michigan on New Year's Day for a couple days. But I would like to do that. I would like to spend Christmas like my wife's cousin and her family went to Jamaica for Christmas.
Oh, see, that's.
I would love to do something like that.
I want to go to Mexico for sometime in the next month, because I think if you live in Chicago, you should leave during the winter to remind yourself that there is life and there is sun and there is not deathly cold. Even though right now we're not experiencing any deathly. I didn't even wear a coat.
Yeah,
I haven't worn a coat for days.
it's since Christmas. Yesterday was 60 degrees, and
And the windows open on Christmas Day.
it's going to be up in the 60s on Sunday.
It's the end of the world, man.
It's going to
It's
rain.
the end of the world.
So, but and Saturday it's going to be in the 50s. I'm going to see if I can play golf. But I wouldn't play golf on Christmas Eve, and with my father-in-law, played terrible, but still to get out there on Christmas Eve and play golf was a lot of fun. And what else? We had another argument. Do you want to get into an argument?
Let's have an argument.
The Trump administration.
You're wrong.
Trump administration, according to this is legal insurrection. Trump administration is ending the war on incandescent light bulbs.
Oh, for the love of Christ.
And so I sent this to him just to see what his reaction would be, because I always think that, like, I don't think I have any incandescent light bulbs, but that's not to say, except for are those old timey light bulbs incandescent?
Yeah, it's the ones with the filament.
Yeah, I have a couple of those for decorative purposes, but I think I have all LED lights, but I have LED lights because I'm a gadget guy. And when they came out, I thought it was just cool.
Yeah.
And so I started buying them just to be cool. I don't think, other than those old timey ones, that I have any incandescent lights in my house. But I still don't like the government saying you can't buy them. If there's a market for them and people want them and people can buy them. I mean, when these first came out, when these LED first lights came out, I didn't like them. I didn't like the light compared to incandescent lights. And do you see a difference in the light? And that is the Democratic argument to everything.
I don't know. Sometimes it depends on the color. You know, the thing is that the government is not saying you can't buy incandescent lights, and it's not a war on incandescent lights. It's such poor wording in that article. Also, what a shitty source that is. But what they're doing is they're taxing incandescent light bulbs so that you'll be more inclined to not buy them. It's a smart thing to do. They're energy inefficient. They're bad for everything. They're an outdated technology, and it's time for the entire society to move forward.
Okay, let me just
So they're not saying you can't have them. They're just saying if you want these, you're going to have to pay a little more.
all right, let me just respond to that by saying two things. First of all, just in case you want to know what a shitty source is, it's anything that writes anything that disagrees with.
No, what is the name of the source?
The Legal Insurrection
Okay.
Blog. They're a bunch of lawyers. And second of all, just so everybody out there knows, Chris is wrong. They're not just taxing incandescent light bulbs. The government passed a law that said incandescent light bulbs are not allowed to be made after January 1st of next year. They're not allowed to be made. We're not going to raise taxes on them. Don't make them. Shut down your companies. You can't make them anymore. They're illegal.
How many companies are making incandescent light bulbs?
I don't know, GE.
They all came from China anyway.
Maybe. That's not. I don't know where they're making them. That's not the point. Can't sell them either. And
Whoop de fucking do. Nobody uses scrolls. You don't hear anyone complaining about that. You know, technology changes, man. People go, hey,
technology changes and the
that's
market
a dumb
makes
way
it change.
that's a dumb way to do it. Let's do it a better way.
Technology changes and the market will take care of those changes.
Boy,
you make
everybody
a better
that-
light bulb, everybody will buy the light bulb.
Everybody that drinks from this well gets sick. Oh, well,
But let me tell you
let's
something.
not shut the well down.
LED lights are twice as expensive as
Yeah, but they
incandescent
last
lights.
5
I
times as
understand that.
long.
I understand that, and that's a valid argument. But my point is for people to tell you that you have to spend twice as much money, you have to spend twice as much money. It just bugs me from a level of I am much more. Not much more. I am more libertarian, I would think, than conservative, and I don't like the government telling me. I'm all for getting rid of the laws on cannabis. I'm all for that. Now, the government for years said you can't buy cannabis, and you were perfectly willing to go along with me on the fact that they should not pass those laws. Get rid of the laws. Let people smoke dope.
Yeah,
you're okay with that, but you're not okay with let people buy incandescent light bulbs. I don't see where. How do you draw that line?
it's what I like. It's all about what
It's whatever
I like.
you. That's what it is. Whatever you like should be perfectly legal.
Exactly. Look, first of all, I don't understand the phrase "the government." You are the government.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, okay, then in some way, you also are responsible for this law.
yeah, I perfectly understand that.
All right.
And now the law's getting repealed, so so I guess you're responsible for it getting repealed.
I guess I am. Not as much as you, but maybe a little.
All right. Can we, as long as we're getting on this argument and you sort of went down this path, can we talk about sources? It drives me nuts. Chris couldn't quote a source to save his life.
No, I can't
And-
remember people's names either, so that's.
It's
It's not like I don't
But
have
every
any
time
sources.
anybody says
I
anything,
just can't remember anything.
you know what? And you know who's like this too? If she's listening to Eve Bradshaw, if you listen to this, you do the same thing too. Every time somebody says something that you don't like or you don't think is correct, what's your source? And then you just destroy. That's a bad source. Then forget it. I'm not even arguing the point.
Okay,
Like today, I forget what it was, but
illegal insurrection.
not today. I'm sorry. This week I sent you an article on something.
Yeah, it was Washington Insider or something like that. It was. Here's the thing. Okay, I'll let you finish what you're saying.
All right. I sent Chris a story where I can't remember. Somebody said something bad about something, and he's like, "What's the source?" And I said, "Well, the source is right there. It's the editor from New York," and it was the blog post that I sent him was, I think, from the Washington Examiner, which you said was a bad source, which is probably true. They're a very biased organization, whatever they were. But the story included a CNN video, which is what I was talking about. And so you can't say a source is bad when they're including an actual video of the actual person saying the actual thing I'm arguing against. It's not a bad.
Photoshop. It's
you
a
can't-
deep
that's a
fake,
bad,
Dave.
That's a bad
It's a
source.
deep fake, Dave. You can't tell the difference. It's a deep fake.
Speaking. Okay. So anyway, that's my rant about him and sources. But
But I think it's important for people to know whether or not the place where they're getting a news story is a source of journalism or if it's a source of public relations, because they're two different things. And the company that owns the thing that you were looking at is a public relations company, and they own several blogs that they use to place stories in order to give more validity to whatever the message is that someone's paying them to do.
no, you're right. But my point is that even though
I didn't even look at the video, so I'm sorry.
yeah, even though you're right, this included an
What was
actual
the video?
It was the editor of the New Yorker. I can't remember what the hell he was talking about, but it was I don't know, something bad about politics. But it was the editor of the New Yorker making a quote that I objected to on CNN, and I sent that to you, and you were like, "Well, that's a bad source because that's a."
It's literally the first thing I do before I even read the article. The first thing I do is go, where is he getting this? And I go and look it up, and if it's a think tank or if it's, well, not a think tank, but if it's because see, there's journalism, all right, which is an industry that is fact based and rigorous. They're rigorous fact checkers, and then there's public relations, which is not. Public relations is about, they might do fact checking, but that's not their purpose. Journalism's purpose is to inform you on things that are important, and especially on things that affect you that people in power don't want you to know about yet. Like they want to tell you some other time. All right. Public relations is about disseminating a message. So it might be that Pepsi tastes good, or it might be that this guy is not so much of a child molester.
Yeah, but that's the same argument that I would use to say that there's biased media. It's the exact same argument that all these companies are sending. They're crafting a narrative, crafting a message that they want you to believe in.
I don't think journalism does that.
And I would also say I would agree with the idea of the what you just said about how they're public relations, they're placing a story, but that doesn't mean that the story's wrong. It just means they're only presenting one side of it.
Well, okay.
Which is what I think that
No.
all sources do.
You know what? Every newspaper, every publication that is true journalistic publication does have a slant. All right, it's a bias. There's no doubt about that. It's impossible for people to write anything without bias. I've come to that conclusion after years and years of arguing with you and of talking with my friends who are journalists. But the thing is, you have to. It's not a black and white issue. You have to think about what their bias is about. So it might be there's the broad bias of a publication, which would be, for instance, with the I might get this wrong. With the Washington Post, it would be generally a liberal bias. Is that correct?
I think so.
All right. And then with, let's say with
Washington Examiner would be a
non. And then the Orlando Sentinel or the Chicago Tribune, for instance, would be generally speaking kind of conservative. All right. It leans more towards a conservative, or at least it has in the past, than towards the liberal. So you can look at it that way, but then there's but there's more biases than that. And some of those biases are very important. Like a newspaper has both of those newspapers have a bias towards releasing factual information because they are a source of information. So they consider that information important, and they have a staff of people who rigorously check it all as best they can to make sure that it is correct.
Right. And most of the time, I don't disagree with that. I object to, I think what happens is that their choice of stories ends up to,
well, I mean,
their choice of stories ends up giving out their bias. I can't think of a word. Giving out their bias.
The goal is to be impartial, and it has been that goal since 1939 when the laws of impartiality went into place. And the idea is that they should be impartial in their coverage of the news. But at some point, a bunch of editors at a newspaper or a television station sit down and say, which stories are we going to run today? And they decide which stories are the most important stories for their readership.
Yeah.
And also probably for the integrity and for the gamesmanship of their business, so that they can be, first. It's important for them to be first to get some news out. So sometimes that's something that comes into play. But generally speaking, journalism is about giving the best news to your audience you can in an unbiased way. A Republican-based organization is going to have choose stories that speak to a Republican base. A Democratic one is going to speak to a Democratic base. Those are main biases, but it doesn't mean that the news itself is biased. The news itself is delivered impartial.
Right. The story may be factually correct, but
the problem with the media landscape is that within those, all right, just as there's an opinion section in a newspaper, and it's very, very obvious because you turn to it and across the top it says opinion. In the media landscape that is broadcast journalism, both television and radio, there is no indication that what you're looking at is the opinion portion of the day. There's almost no indication of that. And almost all of what's broadcast now is opinion and commentary and not actual news.
Right.
Actual news was Walter Cronkite. That was actual news. Now you don't get that. Now almost everything is commentary on what's happening, and it's not news. And that is a serious problem because people like you and I sometimes have a problem. We can't have a valid argument because you and I can't decide what's actually true.
Do you think most of the stuff that I watch, most of the stuff that I see on TV, and I don't watch a whole lot of news on TV. I read it on blogs and newspapers, but most of the stuff I see on TV is almost exclusively opinion based. Do they still have? And I'm not talking about local news because local news, half an hour a night. Do they still have news shows like that on all like CNN, Fox News?
To be honest, I can't even think of one right now. I'm sure they're there, but
like even Brett Baer of like on Fox News is who I think of as a typical anchorman. And also there's the guy that replaced one of them left that did basic news. But even then, on the times I've seen that show, they still have guests on to talk about issues. So it's not really just a flat out like your local, what you think of as local news, where they give a story, they just give the facts, and they just let it go. You know,
I can't even think of one right now.
yeah, I
I
don't
mean,
either.
every single thing there's brilliant journalism going on in broadcast news, but the best journalism also happens to be the most biased journalism in a weird way. For instance, Rachel Maddow, I mean, she is incredibly one-sided in terms of she's serving the liberal Democratic side of the news, very much so. That is her bias, and it's not at all an undisclosed thing. That's what she's about. However, within that, her team and her own journalism and scholarship are unparalleled. Now, she's fantastic, but it is definitely biased. You know,
Yeah.
it's definitely biased. It is my bias, although I have a hard time listening to her.
I'm not sure. Our picture is not working. I'm not sure if we're still doing the live audio. So, I mean, if you're on there, say if you can hear us. I'd appreciate if you could say something, because I'm not sure we still are.
Well, people are responding to what we're saying on my watch party, so I think they are. And there's a ton of people are watching, by the way. So hello, everybody.
Well, then
Thanks for being on the
we
watch
may
party.
just have lost the video is not moving. So we can,
Yeah.
But I only have one other topic I wanted to bring up.
BDSM.
No, Verge magazine, one of my favorite technology magazines, did a story called the Verge's 11 favorite podcasts of 2019, and some of them seemed kind of cool. Spoiler alert: none of them is us. So
Again, always left out. Always a bridesmaid, never the bride.
some of them sounded pretty cool. I wanted to know if you heard of them. One is called "This is Branchburg."
No, I've never heard of that.
It's a wonderfully. It sounds like something we would do. That's why right away I thought of you. A wonderfully absurdist pseudo documentary about people in a small New Jersey town called Branchburg, written and performed by Brendan O'Hare and Corey Snierowski,
First of all, she should change her name.
or he.
That's too hard.
The first episode included a noir narration from the bitter land in Branchburg, announcements from a post office.
This sounds like what was the thing that? Oh, here I go, being old again. Shit, man, the frick. It was on for years and years, and it's about a small town in Minnesota. And
Prairie Home Companion.
it's like Prairie Home Companion a little bit, but
Yeah.
a little crazier. Ted Hogan says that AP and Reuters are your real news sources, and he's absolutely correct about that in many ways. A lot of good reporters start out getting their information from there, but there are also reporters that do real legwork to get real stories. But the thing is, real news stories aren't real sexy. They're complicated and long, and you have to commit to listening to everything, and it's not exciting. You know, sometimes it feels more like you're studying than you're just absorbing news, and that's unfortunate that people aren't willing to do that anymore.
Right.
It's unfortunate that we don't have. Look, I don't mean to be one of those guys like back in my day, but it is kind of unfortunate that we don't have Walter Cronkite anymore. You know, I mean, I know nobody listening right now knows who's the hell. Walter Cronkite was, one of the last great reporters. Him and there's like three other guys were the last great reporters. And now it's just all fucking commentary. And it's all screaming over the top of each other. It's worse than our podcast.
Yep. Well, we don't scream over the top of each other.
Not anymore.
All right. Well, I think that's we're actually at an hour, so I think we should end it for this is the last Beat Cops Guide podcast of the year. Next year we'll be back with new and
It's the best thing that happened to you in the last decade, Dave.
well, I was promoted to lieutenant.
No,
in
I was going to
2012.
say being your friend, but whatever.
So this is the final podcast. We'll be back next year with in the next decade with new and amazing technical foibles.
That's right.
That
We will screw up in ways that are going to be so incredibly entertaining. You won't see any other podcast fuck up as
tell
bad as
all
us.
your friends.
Tell all your friends.
Hey, you guys want to see? You ought to check this podcast out. They fuck everything.
They're
up.
terrible. Worst podcast in Chicago. Beginning.
Yeah, Verge was to write a story about the worst podcast.
We should just write it for them, and the first 5 are us.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, thank you for watching,
Or listening.
listening, whatever.
See ya.